wait for it to begin. So I'd like to share some thoughts on leadership education, and I want to start with a self-disclosure that I'm less of a visionary and more of a pragmatist. And so the message of Voltaire's Candide has always resonated with me. In the face of change, I believe it's important to tend to our garden, to find ways to nourish and support leaders from within our community. Specifically, we need to cultivate entrepreneurial leadership, which is different from managerial leadership in that it is focused on innovation and change. A recent study done this year identified 3 roles of entrepreneurial leaders. You may recognize your personal leadership niche in one or more of these. The first is the cheerleader, who recognizes and communicates the need for innovation and change, keeps spirits lifted and bolsters courage. The cheerleader persuades people that they can do things differently from the ways they have been done. The next is the opportunity seeker, who recognizes and seizes opportunities that others do not see. One library director in the study described this as principled opportunism, making use of change opportunities that are aligned with general principles and values. The third role is the master strategist, which includes conceptualizing and framing strategies, eliminating obstacles, getting support from stakeholders, and asking questions, all with the goal of leading the team towards solutions. But the question that arises in my mind is, how does one become this leader? The standard wisdom within our community is that leaders are not born, but they are created, which is good news for us, and that we share the task of leadership, regardless of rank or position. We can all be leaders. So it becomes a question of finding and creating the opportunities to develop your own skills. A common path to do that is to take advantage of the leadership institutes that are offered by regional library associations across North America, and perhaps many of you have already done so. These multi-day programs for working professionals focus on the skills summarized here in the Wordle, and you can see that change looms large, as we've heard a lot about today. Local examples include the Northern Exposure to Leadership Institute, LEADS, the Pacific Northwest Library Association Institute, and the new Public Library Leadership Fellows Program that's based out of Toronto. Another exciting new option is the R-Squared Conference in Colorado, which is more radical, and it's focused specifically on risk-taking and innovation within libraries. The primary benefits to participants from these institutes are to build confidence in leadership skills, also to network and to get a big picture perspective on the field. And as a community, I think it's very important that we support and extend these initiatives and encourage and nominate our colleagues to take part. But how can we sow the seeds of leadership earlier in the professional development process? This question is close to my heart as I work with an outstanding group of graduate students every day at the iSchool. Many of them have the potential to be great entrepreneurial leaders, but there is a motivation and skills gap. I know about the gap because in 2010, 2 colleagues from the University of Toronto and I conducted a survey of graduate students in 6 information programs across Canada: UBC, Alberta, Western Toronto, McGill, and Dalhousie. Among other things, we asked students about their management and leadership skills and aspirations. What we found is that only 22% of students in the first term of their studies saw themselves as high-level managers in the future. But that number was higher for those about to graduate, went up to about 28%. And the graduating students reported higher levels of management skills, so that is somewhat encouraging. However, when we asked about leadership and innovation in the future, the rates actually fell over the course of their studies, so that only 21% of graduating students saw themselves in this role. Surprisingly, students saw themselves as already having strong leadership skills when they came into our programs, higher than the management skills, but they graduate without developing those skills further. Even more troubling is we found that only 13% of students overall saw themselves as running for office in a professional association in the future. I'm happy to say that the rate was a bit higher at UBC, but it suggests that the value and importance of professional service, which is a key component of leadership, is not apparent to all of our students. I believe that LIS programs are limited in a couple of ways. There's an overemphasis on existing institutions and norms, which traps our students into a status quo thinking. And we still focus too much on the small arts, routine tasks, and tiny perfect practices that encourage small thinking. So we need to think, we need to rethink library and information science curricula from a leadership skills perspective. And I just want to talk about a few of the ways that I'd like to see that happen. The first is what I think of as a system reboot. Our studies should be rooted in an understanding of people, community, and society, and that's what we've been talking about here today and yesterday, not just in libraries and books. I hope to see the message of this summit reflected in the curricula of information programs. The second area, I think, for change, and we're moving there, we're moving closer there, is an emphasis on praxis, which is an orientation towards professional knowledge resulting from thinking and reflecting on experience. We need to bring the world into the classroom, and we need to let the students out into the world. The third point is that school, university and school in general, should be a safe place for exploration, for innovation, and for wild ideas that fail. We need to assess less and facilitate more so that our students can set out on their careers with a lighter and more agile step. Failure should be a requirement of our programs. Of course, there's a lot more that I could say on this topic, as I discovered when I tried to squeeze it into 6 minutes. So I hope that we can continue the conversation, and I'd like to thank you for your attention and for the opportunity to explore these ideas with you.